All right, welcome into another Vegas Squares Snippet. And in this one, we were talking about the breaking news that just came down the wire for the Vegas Golden Knights. It's that Max Pacioretty, the captain from an original 6 team, the Montreal Canadiens, is on the way to Vegas in exchange for Tomas Tatar, first-round pick last year, Nick Suzuki, and a 2019 second-round pick coming from Vegas to Montreal. Well, I'll just open up the floor. Because this has kind of shocked us all.
Yeah.
Because I think your first text, when I texted you this, your first instinct spike was, whoa, or what the fuck? Well, you said something like that.
I think I put the letter F followed by about a dozen U's. Just
might have been more than a dozen, yeah.
Yeah, because nobody saw this coming. I had no idea that this was even an inkling, like a blip on the radar.
Yeah, I thought the Max Pacioretty rumors wouldn't heat
Sizzled
back up again
out.
until February.
Yeah.
I mean, he missed his final 18 games of the last year with a knee injury. Should be ready to go for the regular season. After this year, he can become a unrestricted free agent. So,
Unrefrigerated free agent?
yes.
He's a defrosted player.
It's not good when it comes to hockey.
He was defrosted for assignment.
Yeah. I think, if somebody correct me if I'm wrong, get the crack research staff on this, I think he was the first American-born captain of the Canadiens.
That is correct. I don't need the crack research staff for that, yes.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts just on the haul at face value. Pacioretty is obviously a top-flight left wing.
Yep.
Can play center if necessary, which I don't think we have a logjam in that position right now. In exchange for a guy who may have been a bit premature, but hasn't really gelled in his time with Vegas.
Yeah, it's on face value, it feels like Vegas may have lost this trade only because Pacioretty, as of right now, is a rental. He's only got the 1 year
Correct.
left on the deal. If Vegas can sign him to a long-term or an extension of at least a couple of years, then I feel better about this. But right now, I'm not thrilled. I will fully admit, first of all, as a born and bred Bruins fan, I'm always going to hate the Habs. And especially a captain of the Habs now coming to my adopted team in Vegas. Mm-hmm. But I was also super high on Suzuki. I thought I would have given up Cody Glass before Suzuki. I would have maybe given up Brandstrom before Suzuki. I thought, even though he's small, he's got the hockey IQ that can lead a team. He's a Patrice Bergeron type player.
And it seems like he's got good speed, too. So.
Yeah.
He had 100 points in the OHL last year.
Right, so this is the kind of guy where I really thought you build a team around Suzuki to give him up as a prospect. I'm not happy about that aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's the real question is like you say it all the time in the NFL, you see Khalil Mack just got traded for 2 first-round picks. Well, what are those first-round picks going to be versus what Khalil Mack is now? We know what Max Pacioretty is last year. Again, he only scored 37 points, 64 games he played last year. Sure. Not a great indicator of what he's been in his career.
No, and
but he's also 30.
Right, and let's remember too that Montreal was a fucking dumpster fire last year.
Correct.
So on a good team, he could do better. He makes Vegas better right away.
Sure.
I mean, the weapons around him have improved significantly.
Yep.
Yeah, if you believe Nick Suzuki can translate to what at the NHL level? You said Patrice Bergeron.
I say Bergeron. He's smaller than Bergeron. So he's not going to have the physical aspect to his game that a Bergeron would have. But he's got the hockey IQ. He can play defense. He can set up plays. He knows where to be on the ice. He can see plays develop, which is the kind of player you need in order to lead a team.
And you have that plus what Tatar has been able to do in 5 years. Again, not with Vegas, but they thought maybe he'd be a good third-line guy here, maybe popping up to the second in injury situations.
Yep.
So you have that plus Suzuki, who you think, like again, Bergeron, 70 point per game or 70 point per year kind of guy.
70 points per game. Holy shit.
That'd be neat, wouldn't it?
What was that?
I'd be really mad at that trade.
NHL 2010?
I'd do that in 2018. What are you talking about? 70-point per year kind of guy in exchange for a guy who's, a 65 on average point, his best season, 37 and 30 with a plus 38 on the plus minus. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that has to do with the situation in Montreal, but I don't know. On face value, I'm not crazy about the trade, but at the same time, maybe he can provide benefit if he gets signed long term.
Yeah, it's the long term deal is what needs to happen. I can't feel comfortable about this, especially what they gave up for Tatar to get him. So it's essentially the 3 first-round picks for Tatar, plus a first, a second, and a third,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
plus the second this year. So it's a first, 2 seconds, and a third. If
and
you look
Suzuki.
and Suzuki, who was a first-round pick, so it's essentially 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a third for Pacioretty.
Do you think a deal like this gets made if the Knights don't make the Stanley Cup last year? Because McPhee's mindset last year was build for the future and see what happens this year because they were an expansion club.
Right.
But because of the success, I'm sure Foley, who I'm not going to speculate on his knowledge of hockey, but I know his knowledge of business and winning puts butts in the seats, says we're all evidenced by everything that's gone on this offseason, ticket prices, merchandise sales,
yeah.
for the love of God, the puck sales. Just on its own nature, I could probably buy a team with the number that they've gotten from puck sales. Anyways, I think if the team was a middle of the road, bottom barrel, didn't do anything, they'd be interested more in keeping Suzuki.
Yeah.
And people are talking about, okay, well, now that's another chip in the EK possibilities that's not there anymore.
Right. Which, you got to feel that EK is going to be off the table for the Knights then. Which is unfortunate, but it's sort of the nature of the beast. And
it's got to be either Glass or Tuck that goes.
Yeah.
As the centerpiece of that trade.
Yeah, which I can't imagine. And which is another thing that's a little strange because as the talks for EK were heating up a little bit and Tuck's name started getting floated around, I look at guys in like Major League Baseball and the NFL when their names are mentioned in trades and then it doesn't happen, that they kind of go in not liking the team that they're on because it's like, well, this team didn't really want me, it's just the trade fell through. So you wonder if Tuck is going to be able to kind of overlook that and then come back and play Knights hockey and lead this team because I know, like Ken at Sinbin thinks that Tuck is the captain of this team going forward. So,
I mean, he's definitely a strong candidate.
Yeah. I still would rather give it to Riley Smith or Braden McNabb, but we'll talk about that another time.
Or Derek England.
Fuck off.
Knew that was coming.
Yeah, but as far as this trade goes, this makes the Knights better immediately. It puts them in a much more competitive place right now. It definitely gives them a leg up to win the Pacific Division again, which I'm not necessarily sure they had before. Now I feel much more confident that they can do it. The only thing stopping them would be obviously Edmonton if they can figure out how to get a fucking goalie to win games for them. But aside from that, I really need to see Pacioretty get locked up for a few more years for me to really feel comfortable about this.
Well, of course, if he plays 1 year, has an average year in walks, it's not going to be
right.
good. But I can't imagine McPhee made this trade on blind faith to a rental player without at least talking to Pacioretty and having a strong inkling that he's interested in being here long term.
Yeah, possibly.
Whether that gets signed mid-season or shortly after the season.
Yeah. Just get it done so it's not hanging over everybody's head and we have that that question at every fucking press conference because that would drive people crazy too.
Well, he's $4.5 million in the last year of his deal right now.
Yeah.
So, do you pop him right around there, or do you just give him, you maybe overpay him at face value now to ensure he stays so that this doesn't look like a bad trade?
I think you kind of slightly overpay him now and make it not look like a horrible trade.
Right, especially with the Knights having, they have the cap room in order to do this, so. Because Tatar was $5.5 if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
5.3, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they've got money coming back essentially by making this deal. So they can afford to give him the raise, to give him the extension, and it needs to get done.
Yeah. The sooner the better, and that monkey is off their back for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that second line is going to be fucking sick next year.
We got Stastny, Holla, and Pacioretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you put Holla as the third line center and you move Tuck up to the second line.
Either way, I think it's a deadly second line.
Yeah, I mean, you're not touching the top line, obviously. The
Right.
SMK line. That's the only thing I've been able to figure out what to call it. It's the Smith, Marsh, so Carlson.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. I'm just trying to figure out why there's no better acronym for that.
Mix, MKS. Anyways, so Pacioretty. Okay, so let's look at it. So Stastny is going to center the second line for $6.5 million. I would imagine that's so.
Yeah.
Where am I losing Holla here? So Holla, if you put Holla on the third line and move Alex to the second line, you make a really formidable second line. I just feel like you give away a lot on the third and fourth lines here at that point. Because who scores who scores? Holla? That's it, right? But I guess if
On the third line?
what if you move Nosek to the second line?
No, that's too high. But if you do a third
Well, he's not moving for his talent. He's moving for his availability there. He can play right wing.
Right. But if you do a Nosek, Holla, Carpenter third line,
Then you go Tuck, Pacioretty, and Stastny.
yeah. And then the fourth line is the Lindbergh, Reeves,
Carrier.
I couldn't think of his name for a minute.
Eakin, Belmare.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Whoever's in.
With the healthy scratches.
Yeah, you mix and match on the fourth.
Yeah, it's just now you turn your attention to the defense and you got
The defense is fucking decimated, especially with Schmidt's suspension.
what's the count on cap space left? Still 9. Because like we say, Pacioretty's 4.5, so they gain cap space by adding or by deleting Tatar.
Yep.
I think he was 5.3 or 5.5. You might have been right, 5.5. But so you got 9. I mean, is there a chance they bring a guy in for a quarter of a season, or they just go with Brad Hunt and John Merrill? Exactly. Maybe Malcolm can play defense.
Oh, maybe. There we go.
Get him on the ice.
Get some lessons from your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The defense worries the hell out of me, but I don't know what else they can do because people think that they overpaid Fleury on his extension. People are saying that they're going to have to overpay the Pacioretty to keep him or to extend his contract.
May or may not have to overpay with Carlson.
Yeah. So you've got all these people that you're not just paying, but you're overpaying, so you can't bring in a big name free agent and try to overpay them to fill in the gaps of defense. I think you just roll with what you have and hope Merrill and Hunt don't completely embarrass you.
Yeah, because as long as Theodore sits out, I mean, at some point he's not going to be able to play at all this year, right?
Yep.
I don't know how that all works, but
Yeah, I have no idea.
they do have $30 million open next year, but they got to sign. With that, they've got to sign Schmidt,
Carlson,
and Pacioretty. Obviously, they have other. Nosek will be an RFA, Tuck will be an RFA, so I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah.
Looks like based on that, I would say it's Lindbergh and Belmare's probable last year in Vegas.
Could be. It's a shame. I like Belmar.
I like him too, but let's call it what it is.
Yeah, they don't need him, but I like him.
Yeah. I think this is England's last year too.
Oh, I fucking hope so.
So
The future captain?
I know this is
God.
talking about the trade, but we didn't get a chance to talk about Nate Schmidt's suspension. So we'll touch on that a little bit here. Is him being suspended for basically 1/4 of the season? How's that going to affect his negotiations?
The negotiations, that's actually a good question because obviously he's not going to be able to put up a full season worth of stats.
He's also going to lose money this year
Yeah.
at $2.25 million.
Yeah, well, it's if I remember right,
He loses
it's
like $680,000, I think, right?
it's the first half of the suspension, he gets $0. The second half, he gets like 60% of his salary or whatever. It's a weird way that they have it structured with the CBA, but it should affect him a little bit just because he won't have the full body of work. But I think no matter what, because McPhee's on record saying that Nate Schmidt's the kind of guy that you sign for a 10-year deal, like or that you would want to sign for a 10-year deal if the NHL allowed it. He's the kind of guy that you lock up long term and you just kind of forget about it. Like you let him just play all his years on your team. So to lose a guy like that, especially where the weakness of this team is the defense, and you lose your best defender for a quarter of the year, this is dreadful for Vegas.
Yeah, and looking at Shea Theodore, I mean, we're talking about a team that now just gained more cap space. We have projected or current, depending on how you look at it, $9.5 million with everyone in place to go into 2018. So with $9 million open right now, I guess my question is well, what's the holdup?
For
everyone's signed for Theodore.
For Theodore, yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, if the guy wants to get paid, put him on a. I mean, what could he possibly be asking for that GM McPhee is like? I'm not sure. I mean, it may be a longer term thing.
Yeah, it might be the years, or maybe it's McPhee saying we don't want you on defense, we want you as a third line winger. Because we've seen these types of defenders kind of move back and forth between, forward and defense, depending on where their strengths actually lie. Mm-hmm. And, if McPhee doesn't think that he's a good enough defender, but they like the way that he plays as a winger, they could want to make him make that move. And if Theodore's not happy about that, then...
Yeah, I mean, there could be more than that. Because I say a third-line winger in our team is making anywhere between 2.7 and 3.9.
Right. And and obviously this is speculation because I can't imagine what else would be holding this up. This seems like it should be easy enough to get done. Theodore seems to like it here. There was a small video series of him and his roommate Alex Tuck, and the two of them have been getting along great.
Right.
So we know that he has thus far enjoyed his time here. The fact that he scored that last-second goal against Tampa Bay right before Christmas.
Right in my face.
Right. That kind of made him a hero amongst Knights fans. So obviously we want to keep him here. So I have no idea what could be holding this.
It'll be a great question when we get our media credentials to ask McPhee.
Yeah.
I think they're still in the mail. My application might got lost.
Oh, okay. Good.
But I guess that means we might see a little bit of Zach Whitecloud.
I hope so. Do you think Brandstrom's ready to come up?
I think talent-wise, probably.
To fill any of those holes?
You know what? With this team, again, and what they did, take what they did last year out the window. This team, from top to bottom, is average. I don't care what you say. And that may be, that's my opinion.
All right.
The top lines are really good. The bottom lines are not.
Yep.
So I think, theoretically, obviously that regresses to the mean. Why not see what, in some stretches like a road trip, see what you have. And I don't know the whole, players' service time, entry-level contract thing, so feel free to correct me on that one if I'm wrong or whoever is listening to this. But why not look at Nick Hague? Why not look at Eric Brandstrom? Why not look at Cody Glass on a road trip?
I actually forgot about Hague. I think Hague's probably... Oh, no, not Hague. Holden is the one.
Nick Holden will be on the team.
Yeah, Holden's definitely on the team.
Yeah,
Hague...
He's 31 years old.
Yeah, I always get Hague and Holden confused, and I don't know why. There's no reason for that to happen.
Why not look at a guy like Colasar? Why not look at these guys who are playing in this rookie stuff?
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I brought up Brandstrom specifically, because I saw a move that he made with a nice little hesitation, then wrist shot over the shoulder of Colorado's goalie there. And it looked like the type of move made by NHL vets. And the fact that he was able to do it in a rookie game was just unreal. I mean, it's patience that usually takes years to develop, and he has it now. I would love to see him get a crack at this roster.
Yeah, and I still think that there's no chance that any of those play, but there are guys that I think that will play. Hika.
Yep.
Brandon Peary.
Yep.
And I think if all else could go wrong, I think you could see guys like, that we were talking about. But I think,
I think
more realistic is White Cloud, Peary, and Hika.
Realistic, yeah. On defense, anyway.
Yeah, TJ Tynan, another one. He played in the AHL last year, and he has a chance to he definitely maybe get some minutes. But nothing wrong with, kind of playing with that line, especially if the season gets off the rails a little bit. Nothing wrong with bringing these guys up. Tampa Bay did it 2 years ago when Stamkos got hurt. Johnson went down. Their whole team seemed to go down. They started bringing up all these guys from Syracuse, and they ended up keeping. Yanni Gourde was a guy who got a chance to play and then ended up being a freaking second-line winger who scored 20 goals last year. So, I think we know what we get with guys like Carpenter, Bellemare, Lindbergh, even to the extent Eakin and Reeves. We know what we're getting out of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
So if the season starts to go off the rails a little bit or, these guys start getting hurt, I don't see why you can't. And again, it may be a service time issue. I don't know. But I don't see why some of these guys can't get a look this year.
I think they definitely will. You're right. The service time question is going to be part of it. But I think the flip side of that is I don't see anybody else in this division that can compete. I mean, I know that you're saying that the team is average, and to a certain extent you might be right. But, I'm not crazy about what Anaheim's done. I don't think LA is as good as they tell themselves they are. Calgary's garbage. Vancouver is still fucking terrible, even with Brock Besser or Brook Besser, whatever the fuck his name is. The only threat is Edmonton, and Edmonton still can't play defense. They still don't have a goalie, and everybody regressed 2 years ago into last year. So if Cam Talbot and if they can't figure out the goalie situation, then Edmonton's not a threat.
But you're talking about guys, the teams that missed the playoffs last year. San Jose is better?
San Jose is better, but I still don't think they're better than Vegas.
I think they're equal.
Maybe. Arizona's not up there.
No. But there's 4 teams out of the Pacific that made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but again, I don't think Anaheim has done anything to improve drastically. I don't think LA has done anything to improve drastically.
No, but if Vegas is to win the Pacific, they're not going to win it by, I think they won it by, 6 points last year?
Maybe. Yeah, that sounds right.
So, I think they may have come back down to still a playoff position, but all it takes is for everything went absolutely right last year. All it takes is for a couple things to go wrong.
Yeah.
The only thing that really majorly went wrong last year was Fleury missing 3 months.
Right.
2 months, however long it was.
Yeah.
Right, but they still overcame that.
But Subban had to be perfect.
Yeah, and he was.
And then Dansk, and then Legacy definitely wasn't.
Yeah, no, Legacy was the weak link in that.
That'd be an interesting thought, is if Legacy didn't play and it was Subban or Dansk or Fleury, their record could have been better.
Yeah, it should have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Anyways, well, we appreciate you listening. Definitely talk about this as more shakes out. Hopefully they can get Pacioretty signed long term in this trade. And then now at this point, I hope Nick Suzuki sucks. So, anyways, we appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next one.